They don't fear your knowledge. They fear your voice. It's not your intelligence they're after. It's your silence. Because when you're quiet, they control the narrative. They shape the world around you. But when you speak, when you share your ideas, when you stand up and say no, everything changes. You become dangerous. Not because you're loud, but because your thoughts have weight, and they can't ignore them anymore. They want you to believe that silence equals peace. But it doesn't. Silence in the face of oppression is compliance. When you stay silent, you allow the narrative to be shaped by others. You allow yourself to become a passive observer, never an active participant in your own story. But real peace doesn't come from silence. It comes from speaking your truth, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's unpopular, even when they try to silence you. You're not meant to shrink. You're meant to rise, to speak out, to challenge the status quo. And that's where the real power lies. They tell you to keep quiet, to fall in line, to be seen but not heard. But that's not living. That's existing. They want to control you by controlling your voice. Because once you start speaking, once you start questioning, once you start challenging, they lose their power over you. Silence isn't just about shutting up. It's about submitting to the idea that your voice doesn't matter. And the moment you accept that, you stop existing on your own terms and start existing on theirs. But you were born to be heard. You were born to speak your truth. And no one should ever make you feel like your voice doesn't deserve space in this world. The truth is, they don't want you smart. They don't want you questioning everything. They don't want you thinking critically, because a questioning mind is dangerous. A mind that seeks truth doesn't stay quiet. It speaks up. It challenges the systems that try to suppress it. It calls out the lies, the injustices, and it demands something different. But when you stay silent, you allow the lies to flourish. You allow the manipulation to spread. And worst of all, you allow your own potential to be buried under the weight of conformity. You were never meant to be silent. You were meant to be heard, to disrupt, to question, and to change the world around you. The more you speak, the less they can control you. The more you share your thoughts, the more you expose their manipulations. They can't silence a voice that refuses to stay quiet. They can't control a mind that's awake and aware. And that's what they fear the most. Your ability to see through the smoke and mirrors. Your ability to see what others choose to ignore. The more you speak your truth, the more you remind others they have the right to do the same. And that's how you start a movement. That's how you spark change. So stop staying silent. Stop accepting the narrative they've built for you. It's time to reclaim your voice, your power, your right to be heard. Silence isn't always strength. Sometimes silence is compliance. Sometimes silence is submission. And that's exactly what they want. For you to be quiet, to sit back, to let them define your world. But here's the thing. Silence in the face of injustice is not peace. It's just fear disguised as calm. And when you're afraid to speak, you're afraid to live in your truth. And when you live in fear, you lose your power. Your voice is your weapon. Your thoughts are your shield. And when you use them, you become untouchable. No one can control you. No one can silence you. You don't need to shout, but you do need to speak. And when you do, you'll realize that your silence was never about peace. It was about control. The moment you speak up, you take back control. You take control of your story, your narrative, your life. No more hiding in the shadows. No more silencing your thoughts to please others. When you speak, you own your space. You own your truth. And you make it impossible for anyone to erase you. This isn't about being loud. It's about being present. It's about standing in your own power and not being afraid to share it with the world. Because silence doesn't protect you. It just keeps you stuck. The world doesn't need more people who hide. It needs more people who speak. It needs more people who lead with their truth. And that's who you're becoming. You've already felt the pull, the weight of staying silent, the pressure of blending in, the quiet suffocation of not being your true self. But now, you see the cost of silence, and you realize it wasn't protection. It was self-sabotage. You've been shrinking for too long, waiting for approval, waiting for the right moment. But now, you understand. The only right moment is the one you create. The world can't define you anymore. It can't silence your truth, and it can't make you shrink back into the shadows. Now, your voice is your power, and that voice is going to create change. You don't need anyone's permission to speak. You don't need anyone's approval to act. You're no longer quiet. You're no longer afraid of what they might think. You're no longer scared to speak your truth, even when it makes them uncomfortable. Because you understand now, silence doesn't protect you. It keeps you from living fully. It keeps you from having an impact. It keeps you from being the force you were always meant to be. Your voice is the key to your freedom. Your words are the tools to break free from their control. And now that you've found that power, you'll never go back to silence. You've found your confidence in speaking up. And with each word, you take back a piece of yourself. A piece they can't steal from you. A piece they can't silence anymore. You've stepped into a new version of yourself. One that speaks with authority, without apology. One that knows its worth and is no longer afraid to show it. You've broken free from the chains of silence. Now you speak not for validation, but for truth. You speak not for applause, but for clarity. You speak because you know your voice matters, and you know the world needs to hear it. This is your power. This is your truth. And nothing, no one, can silence you again. Now you live for your own truth, not for anyone else's comfort. And with every word you speak, you take back your autonomy, your freedom, your strength. You've become untouchable, not because you've closed off from the world, but because you've opened up to your own power. When you speak, people listen, not because you're loud, but because your words carry weight, because your truth is undeniable. And those who once tried to silence you, they can't anymore. They can't shame you into silence. They can't manipulate you into submission. You found your voice, and now it leads you. You no longer follow. You create the path ahead. You walk with confidence, with purpose, and with the unshakable knowledge that your voice is your greatest strength. And no one can ever take that from you. You've reached the point where your voice is no longer just a sound. It's a force. You don't have to prove anything to anyone anymore. Your presence speaks for itself. Your truth is unshakable, and your power is limitless. You've stopped fighting for attention. You've stopped chasing approval. You've stopped looking for validation. Now, you stand in your truth, grounded, strong, and unapologetically yourself. You are not a prisoner to their silence. You are the architect of your own reality, and no one can take that from you. Your voice is your power. Your power is your freedom. And now, you live in your truth, without fear, without restraint, and without hesitation. You found the freedom to be exactly who you are, and that is your ultimate victory